if you don't have to start from scratch, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Here's a framework, a foundation to build upon.
Welcome to the Veterinary Blueprint Podcast, brought to you by Butler Vet Insurance, hosted by Bill Butler. The Veterinary Blueprint Podcast is for veterinarians and practice managers who are looking to learn about working on their practice instead of in their practice. Each episode, we will bring you successful, proven blueprints from others both inside and outside the veterinary industry. Welcome to today's episode.
Welcome to this episode of the Veterinary Blueprints Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Butler, and today we are joined by Alyssa Mages from Empowering Veterinary Teams. Alyssa combines 19 years of experience in multiple disciplines of veterinary medicine, coaching, teaching, and she does all this to inject creativity and positive energy into the veterinary industry. She's a public speaker, she's a content creator, collaborative coach, and her main focus is growth and development of teams within the veterinary medical field. And what just really impressed me most recently is she was involved with AAHA's guidelines. She was a guidelines contributor for AAHA's Technician Utilization Guide, which came out October of 23. So I went through a lot of that stuff, and I'm super impressed and excited to have you on the podcast today. So welcome, Alyssa.
Well, thanks so much, Bill. It's great to be here. I appreciate it.
All right, so we're going to dive right in, but you are involved, as we were chatting right before we hopped on, you are involved in a number of initiatives. So Empowering Veterinary is your main gig, but you're involved in MentorVet and a whole bunch of other things. So just a little bit about you and your 19 years of experience, because you've done everything.
No, that's why I'm still here.
That's
There's
why you're
still more
still
to
here.
do.
Okay, so why don't you bring our listeners up to speed on Alyssa and what she's doing now?
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, Empowering Veterinary Teams, like you said, we're focused on growth and development for all members of the veterinary team, but primarily focused on the support team members. So your receptionists, your assistants, and your veterinary technicians. We're really, really pumped that this upcoming year we're going to be launching a lot of more interactive and accessible programs. So not just live boots on the ground training, but on demand through our website, and really excited what that's going to look like. Some keen strategic partnerships coming up too for some training materials. So really, really passionate about that piece, especially because there's so many different learning styles and communication styles. We really want to weave that in. I'm also going to be launching another company called Nurture with my current business partner and two other founding members. That'll be coming early Q1, and it's focused solely on communications training with a gamified avatar, which I get all like goosebumpily because it makes me really happy that we're focusing on that key skill that so many of us, don't get the training on in veterinary technician programs or veterinary medical schools. So that's the other big project. And then I am so proud to work with the MentorVet team as the director of MentorVet Tech. We're halfway through our first official cohort. The pilot was incredibly successful over the summer, and the second cohort is going to launch here in January. So it's just rolling right along. And then, just for fun. But the other things I love to get involved with and are super important, especially because our profession is the whitest one in the United States, is the realms of DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging.
We have an issue in the insurance industry as well. It's a lot of lack of diversity in the insurance industry as well. So I think we're competing with each other about who can be least diverse and try and get diversity rolled in. So that's awesome.
It's something that, those of you that may know who I am, I don't look like your cookie cutter white chick, but there's definitely too many of us, and it's beyond that, right? The diversity piece isn't simply melanin concentration, right? It's ability status and socioeconomic standing and veteran status and religion and all of those things.
Absolutely.
So you need to take the whole person into account and how we can make everyone feel a part of it and they want to be there. So the work with Plausibilities and Blend Vet is a huge part of the work that we're all proud to be a part of. So Never a dull moment, that's
So
for
it
sure.
sounds like not only do you have an extensive background as a CVT, and you're based in Pennsylvania, so that like each state has its own licensing requirements, and I will
Oh
screw
yeah,
this stuff up, but because I'm
it's okay.
but from a so you have an extensive background in the technician support world,
Mhm.
and but you're also a serial entrepreneur. It sounds like in some realm where you
You know, that's so funny. I definitely did not think I would ever be that. And that's, I think, the other thing I loved to when I'm working with practices and individuals is, you're not pigeonholed. No one's just anything. So if there's something that you're really keen to learn about and to do more of, here, and that's why we named the company Empowering Veterinary Teams. I can't empower anybody, but I can give them the tools, the resources, and the support for them to empower themselves. And that's the ultimate goal, is so that, we come in and wean ourselves off so that you're stronger and better with us, and then you can do it on your own.
well, I'd like to start with the end in mind. And we chatted about some things that we wanted to make sure that we would cover today. I took a little bit of a deep dive into the AHA guidelines that you helped as a contributor on, and appropriate integration of workflows. I mean, everything can be systematized to a point, but when we were talking about bringing you on the podcast, you had talked about underutilization, and I think talking about retention in the industry. Yeah, recruiting's important, but retention, it's easier to keep the employees you have than it is to go out and find a new one, right? And so the utilization of so why don't you walk through the evolution of the utilization guide and why that's so important with workflows, efficiencies, and how to integrate that into a practice.
I will do my best.
Okay.
um, there's a lot to digest there, as you so eloquently stated, and I was one of many. It was an
Yeah, it's like a
entirely
dozen.
Yeah, it was a big group effort, which is no small feat considering we're all throughout North America. There we had a Canadian RVT in there as well, and a couple of veterinarians to make sure that we had the full perspective. And we all come from different backgrounds, experientially, and belief structures in such that some are proponents for the nursing title, some are not, some believe in this, those kinds of belief structures, just to be clear on that word. So disparate views, but we had an excellent facilitator, Dr. Mia Carey, and the whole AHA team was just really incredibly inclusive and supportive. So it was really making sure that we could take it into sections that makes it understandable, approachable, and applicable. That's the big thing, right? It's not just, here's this great idea, enjoy it.
Yeah,
It's,
how do you
here's
implement it,
this
right?
right. So here's all of this information. Here's some case studies. Like, let's show you what it looks like when you actively utilize your team members effectively. And I kind of go back and forth on liking that word or not. Like, I'm not a tool, right? I don't want to be utilized, but so I think integrate is a really good way. Empower, which has been like, it's a buzzword lately, but really, I think activate is another good one too. Just like, how do you fire people up? So making sure that there's a real clear organizational structure, not hierarchical, but from a team base. So you take that hierarchical original chart and lay it down, and you put the medical director and everyone in the middle, and then your veterinarians and your credentialed technicians and your associates and everyone, and you all work together. So it's not a upwards and a downwards; it's an all around
Collaborative, yeah.
together. Exactly. And so if you look at it from that regard, it's all intertwined. And then what do your assistants do? What do your receptionists do? What do your credentialed technicians do? What do your veterinarians do? Okay, now it's not that you stay in your lane and you can't leave. That's not what we're saying. It's simply, this is what you are legally allowed to do. This is what you're really good at doing. And this is how we can all do our respective jobs together in a way that it totally emphasizes a more clear cut and efficient workflow, and ultimately provides the better standards of patient care. So you can have one doctor and one credentialed technician and two assistants. The ideal ratio is 1 to 3. How are you training them, right? On the job training, it's not the best. It's necessary. You absolutely have to sometimes learn as you go, but you really have to make sure that you have a structure in place. And that's what these guidelines are for. It's here's how you can establish a competency-based framework to assess your team and make sure that they're in the correct roles. Because until we have a universal title for all of us, I'm a CVT, a certified veterinary technician. There's registered veterinary technicians. There's licensed veterinary technicians. There's licensed veterinary medical technicians. That's in Tennessee. They're the only ones. They're super special. And then there's registered veterinary technologists, those that have gone to a 4-year program. So, okay. That's why if you're reading through that and you see the acronym uppercase C, lowercase r, VT, it's for a credentialed vet tech. So it encompasses all of those. And it's really so much fun to take a look at now the completed work, to see like the flow charts and the infographics and the actual things all come together.
Well, I was like, how do I take this? I was actually, so I'm involved in some coaching programs in my industry, and I was actually meeting with one of my coaches, and I said, hey, I'm going to have this guest on my podcast next week, and she helped develop this guideline, and I showed it to him, and he goes, send me a link to that. Because like, I think, while we think of an industry in its own silo, every business, whether it's insurance, where, we have account managers, right, doing customer service work, and how do you best utilize their gifts, talents, and attributes so that they can maximize their performance and feel that they're being utilized, to use the utilization term, and getting fulfillment out of their job versus just saying, I'm filling the role of, button pusher, whatever that might be, in whatever role you are in the industry. And so increasing efficiencies and improving productivity, well, that really boils down to training your team to be optimally trained to best utilize them so they're operating at maximum efficiency. Because if they don't know how to do something, confused people don't act.
Right. And then, we already have organized chaos in the ER. We don't need to add to that. But I love how you put that, how we silo it. And it's just so true. I think it doesn't matter what industry anyone is in. We tend to see our problems as our problems when it's really a universal concern of, who's going to do what, how are we going to get them to the next level? How are we going to increase the bottom line? What's our ROI on this? And it really comes down to a very simple truth, is identifying the strengths in your existing team and playing to those skills, right? So in veterinary medicine, especially in a small animal practice, which is the predominant one, cats and dogs. This, no offense to any other furred, scaled, or winged creature. I love them all. But that is the primary general practice and specialty centers throughout the US and North America, really. You have your cat people and your dog people. And I am a spicy burrito lady all the way. I love the feisty felines. But an aggressive dog, I have to really, buck myself up and do it. I'm not your go-to person for that. Phlebotomy, absolutely. Anal glands, I'm out. So it's really finding out who on your team is good at what and making sure that they're leading the charge, right? It doesn't necessarily require a management title or a different set of letters after your name to be a leader. It really just matters on how good you are and how passionate you are and how approachable you are and how you can convey that to the rest of the team. So setting that up from your day perspective, if you have a slew of appointments and it's all cats, have your cat team ready to go, right? And figure it out how it's going to work for your practice, right? But if you don't have to start from scratch, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Here's a framework, a foundation to build upon, and then you can customize it and build it from there.
Another podcast guest, a mutual friend of ours, acquaintance, Josh Weissman, tells a great story about, and this is a veterinarian, but just teams where there was an associate who was not, I'm stealing his story, but he told it on the podcast on an earlier episode.
I think he'll be fine with it.
But, he tells the story of a veterinarian who was just not good at surgery, didn't like surgery, didn't want to do surgery, but in the exam room, they sold product, they were personable, like they just, but they were getting judged on, and I'm butchering Josh's story, but they were getting they were getting judged on metrics with how many surgeries and how much they were doing. And they left that practice, went to another one, and they spent 98% of their time in the exam room with patients and doing exams, and they were one of the top producers. So it's business principles. It's where are your team's best attributes and the right seats in the bus. You might, dog or cat people. You might have somebody who's terrible at customer service, but they're really good at accounting and bean counting. Okay, well, do not put them at the reception desk. We're going to have them counting inventory, and so it's that utilization within the team. I think you have to understand everyone's strengths and weaknesses, and not just think that everyone fits in the same. Like, oh, you want to be a vet tech or an assistant, you're going to fit in this box no matter what it is, because you love all animals.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, to your point there too, it's the human skills we tend to forget about, right? Communication and emotional intelligence and de-escalation and networking and collaboration, not competition. So again, those aren't skills that are addressed in our program. So it's something that you do have to learn. And once you apply those principles alongside of your clinical skills, it's amazing what happens. But I do not belong on overnight shifts, and I did that for several years, and it messed me up. But there's some incredible humans that have been doing that for 20 years, and they can just get everything done and never falter.
Yeah, it turns them on. That's what they
So
want to do. They light up to do it.
exactly. So when you're doing your onboarding, and then as you're going through, past the first 90 days, what makes them tick? What makes them excited? And instead of saying that's great, good to know, and doing nothing with it, actually putting it into practice and saying, okay, well, then let's put you here. And I really didn't like this, and taking the feedback both ways. So really actually saying you have two-way communication and an open door policy and following through on it is pretty key.
Yeah. One of the things that I get coached on all the time is that we have two of these and one of these, and we need to use them in that proportion. And a lot of times we want to just tell stuff that's happening versus asking a really good, the better the question, the better the answer. And so if you're asking good questions of your team of where can we improve, and using, like I said, the utilization guidelines are really amazing. And so and you don't have to be an AHA member. Believe me, I'm not. I'm a outside vendor, but the resources that are out there for the industry are really quite amazing. Just to be able to say, hey, these are some you don't have to put everything in place, but maybe just use those as again, guidelines for what you can integrate into your practice. And it kind of goes to the next topic I want to touch on is universal standardization, not just of competency-based training, but utilization of teams. And so why don't we kind of transition into how you think some universal standardization would really help the industry overall as far as foundational approach and competency-based training?
Absolutely. And I love that question, and how you phrased it, because it's, when you look at it from an educational perspective, right? Every veterinarian in every school has to sit for the NAVLE, right? Every veterinary technician in every veterinary technician program in North America has to sit for the VTNE, national standards, accrediting exams. We have to go to a university that's accredited by the AVMA. Standards, guidelines, benchmarks. We have to tick those things in order to achieve our credentials. So it's taking that similar principle and putting it into place for these, training programs, for skills assessment, for how we advance, progress in each position. And again, it's not cookie cutter, but you have to start somewhere, based upon what the governing bodies say, which would be AVMA and NAVTA, as well as AHA's guidelines, forming that structure and then building it from there. It's like, no, we can't say that you can do this or that, because this is what an assistant does, this is what a receptionist does, and this is what a veterinary technician does. It gets a little fuzzy though, because in over 30 states, there isn't a clear definition and protected title for veterinary technicians, even where I'm in Pennsylvania. So anyone that is working in a practice can call themselves a vet tech without the appropriate credentialing and education. And that is a concern for me and several other of my colleagues for many reasons, but particularly for, our community, because they don't know. When you say that you're a vet tech, it automatically has a negative connotation for whatever reason. We haven't educated them or the rest of our profession very clearly on what a vet tech is and what we do. And so they just assume that you're going to do the best by their pet. And it's not that someone who isn't credentialed wouldn't. Of course they would. That's why they're in this profession. And it's not that they don't have the skills. They know what to do. And a lot of them are really good at it, but they don't necessarily know the why. So if you're administering a medication and you know what medication to give and at what time and how, what it's going to do in that instance, that's great. But do you understand the pharmacokinetics of it? And do you understand the mechanism of action? And do you recognize what that's going to mean if you need to give another medication? Do you understand it at a cellular level, right? Those of us that went to school a long time ago still have to look that up, but we have it there. And I am not taking away from the on-the-job portion of it. You have to. That's why you have externships, practicums, and all of those things, your clinical years for veterinarians. You have to get your hands dirty, literally. It is a very, kinesthetic way to learn. Especially you can't feel a bouncing vein through a computer screen. It just doesn't work.
There's no substitute for the live, the
Not at
real life
all.
action.
But you do need to have a lot of the book learning to back that up. So what I would love to see, and a lot of the work that I'm, pushing through with my team at EVT is here's a program that starts you from beginning and takes you onwards, right? So it's not simply, here's your welcome packet, go have a great day. It's ease them into the team. These are the skills that you focus on for the first week, the first 3 weeks, the first month. This is how you advance. And this is the modalities that they're presented to you. We're working with generations that are digital natives. I remember when the internet came on, right? So it's like that they've never not had it. I know. I totally dated myself. It's fine. Level 4 is great, guys. So you have to meet people where they are with what they need. So is there an app for that? Yeah, there's an app for that. And for those of us that like to write things down, because even in these younger generations, some of them like to write notes. My daughter is going to be 16 next week. You should see her notebook for her courses. They're all color coded and indexed. That's why she's an A student and I was not. So but it's really, and I'm definitely rambling on this. I apologize, but it's definitely something that to start with, because if you don't have something that is standardized to start, you don't know where you're going to end up, and it's going to be the mess we're in right now.
So, and also I think from a team member's perspective, it also gives them a roadmap, right? So I just spent, a couple years in school. I just got certified. I passed my national certification. I'm now going to go work at a vet practice, and they give you the welcome to the practice. Here's your HR packet. You're in exam room 3.
Yep.
And that's your
and
career.
You're standing there like,
and that's your career. Deer in headlights. Okay. I guess I'm on. And, one thing that I've integrated for my business is here's what 30 days looks like, 0 to 30 days. Here's 30 to 90 days and 90 days to 1 year. And the expectations of what, and it's benchmarks for success, right? It's you're expected to, at the end of 30 days, you should know how to do this, and this here at my insurance agency. Now, you might have to do all those same things at a different insurance agency, but at least you see written down what the standardized, levels of what does success look like? And then from day 60 to 90, and at the end of a year, this is what you rounded out. And then from there, it's okay, here is how you progress up the food chain in the expertise and experience within the industry. And I think that kind of encompasses everything, right? Where it's the training and education, but also utilization. It says, okay, now I see a career path versus just doing phlebotomy every day for the rest of my life. Is here's the career path and progression that I can be on because there's some things written down.
Absolutely. It gives it roadmap. That's the best way you can say it. And for me too, the other thing because we all want to do the fun stuff. I want to poke the veins. I want to do anesthesia. I want to do the cool things. Yeah. But these are living creatures. And if you do it wrong, they might not be living. So you need to take it more seriously. I mean, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had where they ask me, what do you do? Oh, I'm a veterinary technician. Oh, I used to be one of those. Where'd you go to school? What did you do? And so to really make sure that there is a sense of
Well, I was
pride
an
and
assistant.
ownership. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and it's, again, I'm not putting I was an assistant, and I was a cocky assistant because I had a bachelor's degree. So like I'm so much more. I was so much less. And, it's hindsight is 2020 and all of those things, but really, taking pride in where you're at in your career and recognizing where you can go and how vital you are in every single role. As a technician, I can't hold the patient and intubate. Well, I shouldn't. Right. And I can't answer the phones and do all of those things. The people at the front desk and in the business offices on the phones are the reason we have jobs. It's hard. People are not nice. And, when we're highly skilled and well trained and integrated and utilized, the doctors can do what they can do that we can't do. Right? We all need to have that symbiotic relationship so everything works and our patients get the care that they deserve.
So, for me as a layperson in the veterinary world, I'm involved ancillarily, but from a client facing perspective, I walk into a practice, there's veterinarians and then there's everybody else. And, whether you're an assistant or a technician or a certified vet technician or a certified nurse and all the different labels,
Ooh.
what, the perception for the consumer of the vet practice is everyone's a technician or vet tech. They don't understand the different layering within that.
Right.
And they just assume everyone can do everything. They're not the veterinarian.
And that's where we have to do better. And there is a really great graphic in the guidelines and elsewhere. Actually, NAVC and NAVTA just put together something called Trust Your Vet Tech. So it's a poster that delineates who does what and why a veterinary technician is so vital and so important. So, and it's something to practice that vernacular, right? If you're not credentialed, you're not a vet tech, you're an assistant. So those are the three main roles other than a veterinarian: is the customer service representative, the CSR or the receptionist, the veterinary assistant, and the veterinary technician. So if you're, want to correlate it, and we try not to make too many parallels with human med, but it's our closest, cousin in the professions. It's akin to, a veterinary technician is an RN, BSN, right? And a veterinary assistant is like your radiology tech or your ER tech, things like that. And the gals and guys and all the other incredible humans that are at the front desks have a similar role. And then you have your practice managers, right? So those are like and then if you have a huge hospital, you have an administrator, right? But those are the three main roles. So CSR, VA, VT.
So now that we've got all these people working at our practice, Alyssa, how do we train them using a team-centric approach? Because I know that's a big thing for you and your organizations that you work in and that you work with on practices. So how is that training and team-centric leadership more beneficial to veterinary medicine versus just, individual training and team leading?
It's a good point, and I'm glad to talk about it. So whether you're an athlete or not, it is a team sport, right? When you're doing CPR, especially on a tiny little dog, it's contact, right? There is no way you can't. You have to work together. You have to understand who's doing what, where, when, why, and how. And so when you are creating a training program, you have to take that into consideration. And thinking about all the skills you have to do at any given time, on any given day, throughout a crazy week, there's no downtime lately, right? So having your lead technician be in charge of training, not a bad idea, but when do they have time to do it?
Yeah.
Right? And do the things that you need them to do if you're the practice owner. So
how are you facilitating that as the leader in the organization, saying, okay, hey, Bill, you're in charge of this training, figure it out to train CPR
right.
for the rest of the team. I don't know what I
I
know
don't
how
know,
to
like
teach
I
it.
know how to do it, but
Yeah, I know how to do it, but
so,
how do I train my counterparts and my peers in a training session to do that?
right. And so what it needs to do is kind of like what we were talking about before, is kind of taking a step back and, flipping that org structure on its side and finding who's good at what, making sure that you do have someone within each track within the practice. So you have a lead CSR, you have a lead assistant and a lead vet tech, and they work together to formulate these plans. Now, can you do it internally? 100%. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. You might not have the time or the resources to do it. And so it's where we come in with, what do you need? Well, we have a team in place. Okay. Do you have the templates? Do you have the
Do you have a
software?
team
Do you
lead for the
have,
team?
what's that?
Do you have a team lead for that team?
Exactly. Right. And that's not going to be feasible for, say, like a 4-doctor practice, right, with a total of 24 team members. You're not necessarily going to have all of those leads or the people power to have a training team within that. And that's okay. You have to simply take a look at who's really good at doing what. How can we structure their schedule so on this day they're training? This is what onboarding looks like. This is what growth and development looks like for us. And it is a lot of work. So if you are going to sit down and do that, you're going to have to dedicate a couple of months to developing this. Or you can give us a call where we can walk you through it, right? We come in and take a look at your workflow. We sit down with you and formulate your org structure. We make sure that every member of the team gets a one-on-one. So this is where they're at clinically skills. This is where they're at human skills. This is their designated level or progression from our evaluation standpoint. And this is where they need some work. And then here is your skill set to work on. Here's how we're going to do it. And here's your one-on-one time.
And,
It's a lot.
one of the things that I think shouldn't be missed in that is when you're onboarding a team member, you say, look, welcome to the team. Welcome to Butler Veterinary Practice. And here's the roadmap for, not only just utilization and training, but we have team leads here at the practice. And if you want to work your way up to a team lead, here are all the things you need to do along the way. And it helps build that career progression versus just, you want to have a little bit of career progression potentially within the industry instead of just flattening everyone out, say everyone here is equal. All assistants are equal. All technicians are equal. No, we actually have a couple people that are elevated and you have the opportunity to work your way in that. And it does everything within the practice of saying, not only are we doing training and education and team-centric approach, but we also have some career progression and not everyone's just a technician or not everyone here is just an assistant. We do have some elevated positions and that helps you as the I'm putting on my entrepreneur, I own the business hat of not everyone's always equal. You do have those better team members and how do you reward them and show them that career progression within the practice and laying that out day one versus saying, all right, 6 years in, you're threatening to leave. Why don't we make you a team lead?
Exactly. And it's definitely something to say for incentivization as well, right? Pizza
Absolutely.
parties only go so far. The other part that goes along with all this is when you're getting them on is, spend a couple days, get them through all their paperwork, right? And then ease them into it, like have them shadow people and don't let them jump right in right away. Like the deer in the headlights, I did that, right? I started at a 40 doctor practice on my first ER shift. Like, oh, I'm so glad you're here. We have a bulldog that, we need to sleep for the next 12 hours. That's you. You can ambu bag him for 12 hours, right? I'm like,
can I?
I can.
You said I can, so I must be able to. So here we
I guess
go.
I
Right?
can. So, and there's some people that thrive on that type of energy. I was one of them, but that doesn't work for everyone. So it's also when you're onboarding people, and I hate that interview question. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Switch that up as the interviewer and like, in what areas are you really passionate about, and in what areas do you feel you would like to grow? Because for me, going from GP into emergency and specialty medicine, that's a big jump for someone,
And there's a
or
lot
vice
more
versa.
practices. I mean, I'm working with some practices now that are opening up saying, I'm going to do urgent care only, no scheduled appointments, normal business hours, but urgent care. And so, it's a different
It's a
model than it
whole
used to
different
be
ballgame.
in the veterinary world where you have veterinarians going, there's a gap in the market that I think I can fill. But now you've got to find the team members who thrive on that type of environment versus the, I'd say more standardized scheduled. Yeah, we're booked out 3 weeks and this is the appointments for today versus I don't know what's going to walk through the door in the next 20 minutes.
Right. And that's where you have to really kind of filter out, not only from a business owner standpoint, but from a team member as you're going in there. Is this what you want? And taking a look at how the industry is evolving. Is there someone that's been at your practice for 20 years and they're so good, but our knees and our backs after 20, 30 years of throwing big dogs around, we don't throw them. I promise we don't throw them. We're very kind. But it takes its toll. So how can you take them out of the main workflow? Hey, there's your lead trainer right there. There's someone that can get on the phone and do, get the training
That
and do
institutional
telehealth.
experience.
Right. Let's have them do all the lab callbacks. Let's have them do all of the scheduling. Let's have them do this. Let's have them take care of this. What can they do to still be a functional and happy member of the team, right? Not talking toxic positivity, like good vibes only. I don't like that. I do not subscribe to that. You can have a bad day.
There's not like, in all transparency, no matter what business you're in, nothing is all happy times and
No.
puppy dogs and unicorns. And so,
Yeah. But there's ways that you can get there to a more steady state, right? So it's taking a look at what you've got. How can you utilize what you already have? Identify those existing, leaders within your team. Do you have some structure already? Great. Here's how you can make it better. Oh, by the way, this is going to adhere to the recommended guidelines from the industry standards, and you can move forward together as a team.
yeah. Well, if somebody wants to move forward together as a team with empowering veterinary teams, EVT, where can people find you and the rest of your universe of excellence out there in utilization and team training and everything that you have good going on out there?
We're on all major social platforms, so you can find us on Instagram at EmpVet Team, EMP Vet Team, or Facebook and LinkedIn. Our website is our company name, empoweringveterinaryteams.com. And there's a bunch of stuff on there. So if you need, templates just to download, we have digital downloads and things like that. And the first consultation to meet with me or one of our lead trainers, the first 30 minutes is free. We want to make sure that we can figure out what you need.
Well,
So
I would recommend anyone out there listening who says, I want to better utilize my team, to reach out to you and Empowering Vet Teams, because you're just super passionate about it. I can tell. The training, the training, I have a background in the military, and we always said train like you fight in the military, because that's really what it boils down to. And if you're not training your team and you're not utilizing them to their fullest extent, you've got blind spots that you don't even realize as a business owner, as a practice owner out there, and as a practice manager. So that's why I really wanted to have you on, and we'll have all your contact info out there. You and I connected on LinkedIn, but we'll make sure to have that out there. So what is the one thing that you wish everyone would do out there that you work with on your practices that you collaborate with?
I want everyone to remember that no one is just, in air quotes, anything.
Yep.
Own the awesome that you are. Get out there and do it.
100%. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode of the Veterinary Blueprints podcast. As always, remember to like, subscribe, and review the podcast. And thanks so much to Alyssa for joining us today and Empowering Vet Teams and everything awesome she's got going out there. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Veterinary Blueprints. If you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions for an episode, I would love to hear from you. Email me at bill@butlervetinsurance.com. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you could do me a huge favor, it helps with the algorithm. If you can like, share, or comment on the post, leave a review, I would love it. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time.